I still remember the exact moment my world fell apart. It was a Tuesday morning in September, and the doctor's words hit me like a freight train. "I'm sorry, Marcus. We did everything we could." Sarah was gone. My wife of 23 years, the woman who had stood by me through thick and thin, had lost her battle with cancer at just 48 years old. The funeral was a blur of black suits and whispered condolences. I watched as friends and family paid their respects, but all I could think about was how empty our house would feel without her laugh echoing through the hallways. Sarah had been the glue that held our family together, and without her, I feared everything would crumble. And crumble it did. Within weeks of the funeral, the cracks began to show. My 3 children, Michael, 25, Jessica, 22, and David, 19, started treating me like a stranger in my own home. The warmth in their eyes was replaced with cold indifference, and family dinners became tense affairs filled with uncomfortable silence. "Dad, we need to talk," Michael said one evening, his voice carrying an authority that made my stomach churn. Jessica and David flanked him on either side of the kitchen table, their arms crossed and faces stern. It felt like an intervention, but I was the problem they needed to solve. "About what, son?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. "About the house. About Mom's life insurance money. About your future." Jessica chimed in, her voice sharp as a blade. "Let's be honest, Dad. You're 62 years old. You've been working at the same factory job for 30 years. And frankly, you're not getting any younger." I felt my chest tighten. These were my children, the babies I'd held in my arms, taught to ride bikes, and cheered on at countless soccer games and school plays. Now they were looking at me like I was a burden. "We think it would be best if you moved into a senior living facility," David added, avoiding my eyes. "There's a nice place about 30 minutes from here. You'd have people to look after you, activities to keep you busy. Mom's insurance money could cover for years." I stared at them in disbelief. "A nursing home? I'm not even sick. I don't need anyone to look after me." "Dad, be realistic," Michael said, leaning forward. "You're alone now. This house is too big for one person, and maintaining it is expensive. The smart thing would be to sell it, put you somewhere safe, and divide the remaining money between the 3 of us. It's what Mom would have wanted." The audacity of that statement made my blood boil. Sarah would have been horrified to see her children treating me this way. She would have never stood for it. "This is my house," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "Your mother and I bought it together. We raised you kids here. Every room holds our memories. Memories don't pay property taxes or utility bills." Jessica snapped. "And let's be honest, Dad. Without Mom around to manage everything, you're going to struggle. You've never been good with finances or household management." Her words cut deep because there was a grain of truth in them. Sarah had handled most of our financial planning and household organization. She had been the one to remember birthdays, plan family gatherings, and keep track of important dates. But that didn't mean I was helpless. "I can learn," I said desperately. "I can figure out." "Can you?" David asked, his tone skeptical. "When's the last time you balanced a checkbook? Do you even know how much the mortgage payment is? Face it, Dad, you need help." The conversation continued for another hour, but my children had already made up their minds. In their eyes, I wasn't their father anymore. I was a liability, a problem to be managed and eventually disposed of. Over the next few weeks, they became more aggressive in their campaign. They would show up unannounced with real estate brochures and nursing home pamphlets. They criticized every aspect of my life, from the way I kept house to the meals I prepared for myself. "Look at this place," Jessica said during one of their visits, wrinkling her nose as she surveyed the living room. "It's falling apart, Dad. The carpet needs replacing, the walls need fresh paint, And don't even get me started on the kitchen. I'll fix it up, I protested, but even I could hear the weakness in my voice. With what money? Michael challenged. And with what skills? Dad, you're a factory worker, not a handyman. They had an answer for everything, a rebuttal for every argument I made. Slowly but surely, they wore me down. The constant criticism, the condescending looks, the way they spoke about me like I wasn't even in the room, it all took its toll. The final blow came when I overheard a phone conversation between Jessica and Michael. I had gone to the kitchen to get a glass of water when I heard Jessica's voice coming from the living room. I don't care if it hurts his feelings, she was saying. We can't let sentiment get in the way of practicality. Once we get him settled in that place, we can sell the house and split the money. It's probably worth at least $400,000 in today's market. What about Dad's share? Michael asked. Jessica laughed, a cold sound that made my skin crawl. What about it? The nursing home costs will eat through most of Mom's life insurance money anyway. By the time he's gone, there won't be much left. Besides, we're the ones who'll be dealing with his care for the next however many years. We deserve compensation for that burden. I stood frozen in the kitchen, my heart breaking into a million pieces. My own children were planning my life like I was already dead, calculating the value of my existence in dollars and cents. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. You see, my children had made one crucial mistake in their assessment of me. They assumed that because I had worked in a factory for 30 years, I was simple-minded and financially illiterate. They assumed that because Sarah had handled most of our finances, I was completely clueless about money management. They were wrong. What they didn't know was that I had been quietly building a financial empire for the past 15 years. It started small, a few $100s invested in stocks that Sarah thought was just my hobby. She indulged my interest in the market, thinking it was cute that her blue-collar husband wanted to play businessman. But I wasn't playing. I was learning, studying, and most importantly, I was winning. Every week, I would take a portion of my paycheck and invest it. Not much at first, maybe $50 or $100. I read everything I could get my hands on about investing, trading, and market analysis. I watched financial news during my lunch breaks and spent evenings researching companies and market trends. Sarah knew about some of it, but she never knew the full extent. As my portfolio grew, I became more secretive about it. Not because I was trying to hide it from her, but because I wanted to surprise her someday with our financial security. By the time Sarah got sick, my investments were worth over $2 million. During her illness, I liquidated some of my positions to pay for experimental treatments and the best possible care. But even after those expenses, I still had over $1.8 million in various accounts that my children knew nothing about. The beautiful irony was that while they were fighting over their mother's $100,000 life insurance policy and the equity in our $400,000 house, I was sitting on a fortune that dwarfed both combined. So when they continued their campaign to force me into a nursing home, I decided to let them win, but not in the way they expected. You know what? I said during one of their interventions, putting on my most defeated voice. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am too old to manage on my own. I saw the gleam of victory in their eyes as they exchanged glances. They thought they had finally broken me down. We've already found a place, Michael said, trying to sound sympathetic, but failing miserably. It's called Sunset Manor. Very nice, very clean. They have activities, and I don't care about the details. I interrupted, playing my part perfectly. Just arrange whatever you think is best. I'm tired of fighting. Over the next month, they moved with frightening efficiency. The house was listed for sale. My belongings were sorted and mostly donated, and a room at Sunset Manor was secured. They handled everything with the cold precision of corporate executives dismantling a business. The day I moved into the nursing home was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. My children dropped me off like I was a package being delivered, staying just long enough to sign the paperwork and give me awkward, obligatory hugs goodbye. "We'll visit soon," Jessica lied, already heading toward the exit. "Take care of yourself, Dad," Michael added, not bothering to hide his relief at being done with me. David said nothing at all. Sunset Manor was exactly what you'd expect from a mid-tier nursing home. Clean but sterile, filled with the elderly, the forgotten, and the abandoned. My roommate was an 80-year-old man named Frank, who spent most of his days staring at the television and muttering to himself. For the first few weeks, I played the part of the broken-down old man perfectly. I ate the bland food, participated in the simplistic activities, and accepted the condescending kindness of the staff. But inside, I was planning. My children visited exactly twice in the first month. Both visits were brief and uncomfortable, filled with awkward small talk and obvious impatience to leave. After that, the visits stopped altogether. They called occasionally, but even those calls became less frequent as the months passed. It was during one of these rare phone calls that I learned what I had suspected all along. "How's Dad doing?" I overheard David asking Michael. I was on the extension in the common room, pretending to struggle with the phone while they talked. Thinking I had hung up, "Who cares?" Michael replied callously, "The house sold for $420, just like we thought. After paying off the remaining mortgage and the realtor fees, we cleared about $380, split 3 ways. That's over $125,000 each. What about Dad's cut?" "What about it?" Jessica's voice joined the conversation. "He's got a roof over his head and 3 meals a day. That's more than a lot of people his age can say. Besides, we earned that money dealing with all his drama." They talked for a few more minutes about their windfall, discussing vacation plans and major purchases. Not once did they ask about my health, my happiness, or my well-being. I was dead to them, a problem they had successfully solved. That conversation was a catalyst. I needed to put my plan into motion. The next day, I called my lawyer, a man named Richard Stone who had been handling my investment affairs for years. My children had no idea he existed. "Richard, it's Marcus. I need you to set up a meeting. It's time." 2 weeks later, Richard picked me up from the nursing home for what I told the staff was a routine doctor's appointment. Instead, we went to his downtown office, where I spent 3 hours putting the final touches on a plan I had been developing for months. The plan was simple but devastatingly effective. Using my investment money, I was going to buy the very nursing home where my children had dumped me. Then I was going to transform it into a luxury senior living community, the kind of place that wealthy retirees paid premium prices to call home. But first, I had a more personal score to settle. I instructed Richard to have my children's individual bank accounts investigated. As expected, they had each deposited their share of the house sale money and were already spending freely. Michael had bought a new car and put a down payment on a condo. Jessica had booked an expensive European vacation. David was planning to use his money to start a business. Then I had Richard freeze their accounts. You see, there was something my children didn't know about the house they had sold. 20 years earlier, when Sarah and I had refinanced our mortgage, I had quietly added a clause to the deed that required all 3 children to sign off on any sale. It was meant to be a protection for Sarah and me, ensuring that neither of us could sell the house without considering the impact on our kids' inheritance. But my children, in their haste to cash in, had forged my signature on the sale documents. They had committed fraud, and I had the evidence to prove it. When their account were frozen and they received legal notices about the fraudulent sale, the panic was immediate and delicious. My phone started ringing nonstop. Suddenly, they all want to talk to their poor, helpless father. "Dad, there's been some kind of mistake." Michael's voice was frantic when I finally answered his call. "The bank froze our accounts, and there are lawyers saying something about fraud. You need to help us clear this up." "I'm sorry, son," I said, letting my voice shake with age and confusion. "I don't understand all this legal stuff. Maybe you should call someone who knows about these things." We did call someone. They said the house sale was invalid because you didn't actually sign the papers. "But that's impossible, right? You signed them. I saw you sign them." "Did I?" I asked innocently. My memory isn't what it used to be. These days, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I could practically hear the wheels turning in Michael's head as he realized the implications of what I was suggesting. "Dad," he said slowly, "are you saying you don't remember signing the papers to sell the house?" Like I said, son, my memory isn't good, but I trust you kids did what was best for everyone. After I hung up, I couldn't stop smiling. It was the first genuine joy I had felt since Sarah's death. Over the next few days, all three of my children made pilgrimages to Sunset Manor. They arrived with flowers, chocolates, and fake smiles, suddenly very interested in my well-being. "Dad, you look great," Jessica gushed during her visit, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "This place is really agreeing with you. How are the staff treating you?" David asked, pretending to care. "Are you getting enough to eat? Do you need anything?" Michael was more direct. "Dad, we need to talk about this house situation. There seems to be some confusion about the paperwork." I played my part perfectly, acting confused and frail, while they desperately tried to get me to admit that I had knowingly signed the sale documents. But every time they pressed me for details, I would claim memory problems or change the subject entirely. "I just want what's best for the family," I would say, looking at them with sad, watery eyes. "Your mother always said family was the most important thing." The legal pressure mounted quickly. With the house sale invalidated, my children were required to return the money they had received, money that Michael and Jessica had already spent. David was in slightly better shape, since he hadn't made any major purchases yet, but he was still facing serious legal consequences. They hired lawyers, of course, but without my cooperation, their case was hopeless. The handwriting analysis clearly showed that my signature on the sale documents was a forgery, and there were security cameras that proved I wasn't present when the papers were supposedly signed. As their legal troubles deepened, their visits to the nursing home became more frequent and more desperate. They would sit by my bedside, holding my hands and speaking in gentle, loving tones. The same children who had treated me like garbage just months earlier. "We're so sorry, Dad," Jessica said during one particularly pathetic visit, tears streaming down her face. "We just wanted to make sure you were taken care of. We never meant to hurt you." "We love you," Michael added, his voice breaking. "You're our father, and we should have treated you better." David just sat there crying, unable to speak. I looked at them, these children I had raised, loved, and sacrificed for, and felt nothing but contempt. Their remorse was purely selfish, motivated by fear of legal consequences, rather than genuine regret for how they had treated me. But I played along, patting their hands and speaking in a wavering voice about forgiveness and family bonds. Inside, I was counting down the days until the next phase of my plan would be revealed. That day came exactly 6 months after I had moved into Sunset Manor. Richard arranged for all three of my children to meet at his office for what they thought would be a settlement conference to resolve the house situation. When they arrived, they found me sitting in the conference room, but I wasn't the frail, confused old man they expected to see. I was wearing a sharp business suit, my back was straight, and my eyes were clear and focused. "Hello, children," I said calmly as they took their seats, their faces showing a mixture of confusion and growing alarm. Dad! Michael stammered. What's going on? Why are you dressed like that? Richard cleared his throat and opened a thick folder. Your father has asked me to explain his financial situation and his plans for the future. For the next hour, Richard laid out the full extent of my wealth. He showed them bank statements, investment portfolios, and property deeds that proved I was worth nearly $2 million. He explained how I had built this fortune through careful investing over 15 years, and how I had managed it all while working my factory job and raising their family. My children sat in stunned silence as the reality sank in. Their poor, helpless father, the man they had dumped in a nursing home to steal his house, was actually wealthier than they could have ever imagined. Furthermore, Richard continued, your father has purchased Sunset Manor and is converting it into a luxury senior living community. The renovation will be complete in 3 months, at which point it will become one of the most exclusive retirement destinations in the state. Jessica found her voice first. Dad, we had no idea. Why didn't you tell us about the money? I leaned forward, my voice steady and cold. Tell you about what, Jessica? Tell you so you could steal that too? Tell you so you could find new ways to manipulate and control me? That's not fair, Michael protested. We were just trying to look out for you. Look out for me? I laughed, a harsh sound that filled the room. You dumped me in a nursing home so you could steal my house. You calculated the value of my life in dollars and cents. You treated me like I was already dead. Tears started flowing again, but this time I felt no sympathy. These weren't tears of genuine remorse. They were tears of self-pity from people who've been caught and outsmarted. But here's what's going to happen, I continued. The fraud charges against all 3 of you are going to stand. You will face the legal consequences of your actions. Michael and Jessica, since you spent money that wasn't yours, you'll likely face additional charges and civil lawsuits. Dad, please, David begged. We made a mistake, but we're your children. Don't destroy our lives over this. You destroyed your own lives the moment you decided I was disposable. I replied, but I'm not completely heartless. I'll make you a deal. They leaned forward desperately, hanging on my every word. Each of you will work at my new senior living facility for the next 2 years. You'll start at minimum wage and work your way up based on merit, just like everyone else. You'll learn what it means to care for elderly people with dignity and respect. And maybe if you prove that you've genuinely changed, we can rebuild some kind of relationship. And if we refuse? Michael asked, then you face the full legal consequences of your actions without any help from me. Prison time, financial ruin, destroyed credit, the works. The room fell silent as they absorbed my ultimatum. It wasn't really a choice, and we all knew it. One by one, they agreed to my terms. They had no other option. That was 3 years ago. Today, I live in the penthouse suite of the Marcus Williams Senior Living Community, formerly known as Sunset Manor. It's a beautiful facility now, with world-class amenities, gourmet dining, and a staff that treats every resident with dignity and respect. My children work here too. Michael is a maintenance supervisor, Jessica manages the dining services, and David runs the activities program. They've all proven themselves to be competent employees, and more importantly, they've learned to treat elderly people as human beings deserving of respect rather than burdens to be managed. Our relationship isn't the same as it was before Sarah died. I don't think it ever could be, but it's something. They've apologized countless times, and while I've forgiven them, I haven't forgotten the lesson. They taught me about the importance of self-reliance and the danger of taking family loyalty for granted. Sometimes, late at night in my luxurious apartment, I think about Sarah and wonder what she would think of everything that happened. I think she would be proud of how I stood up for myself, but sad that it came to this. She always believed the best in people, especially our children. But Sarah never had to experience the cold calculation in their eyes when they looked at her as a liability instead of a person. She never had to hear them discuss her worth in terms of dollars and cents. Maybe if she had, she would understand why I did what I did. The truth is, I never wanted revenge. I wanted respect. I wanted my children to see me as a person worthy of dignity, not as a problem to be solved. And in the end, that's exactly what I got. My secret plan worked better than I ever imagined it would. Not only did I secure my own future, but I taught my children valuable lessons about family, respect, and the consequences of treating people as disposable. And every day, as I watch elderly residents enjoy their golden years in comfort and dignity, I'm reminded that sometimes the best revenge is simply proving that you're much stronger and smarter than anyone gave you credit for.